Okay, hello everybody. Okay, welcome. Today our session is not going to be as long. I'm in a wildfire area here in Orange County, so it's a little dicey. But I just wanted to check in with everybody. There's still a couple of people who didn't take the midterm, so I'm going to reach out to them and then see what's going on. And then I'll release the answers, and then I'll go over probably Thursday some of the questions that folks missed. So the high score is, yeah, I am pretty close to the fires. Half of my city, one part of half of my city on the east side is under evacuation orders. Yeah, be safe. Thank you. Yeah, we actually have some friends who are staying with us too. They're from Irvine, and they're under evacuation as well. So it's been one of those days. And yeah, today I found out my sister's roommate has COVID. So that's kind of another kink in the be safe plans. Yeah, oh geez, that's exactly it. Joking to my friends, I'm waiting for, because there's a darkness around, I'm just waiting for a big disc to emerge and say, we're here, humans, you know. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it. Okay, so the high score in the exam was 88%, which I think is like 46, I think 46 out of 52. So and the average was 64%. So I don't assign curves typically right now, but you're probably looking at least at a 10-point curve here. So if you got 88, that means you have a 98. If you have 85, you have like around a 95. If you have a 64, which is the average, you have the average, which is 74, right? Around a 10-point differential. Okay. As I'd mentioned, I'll go over not the whole thing, but some of the questions that I think you guys should have gotten correct, but that some people missed based on the breakdown of the different questions online. It was a tough quiz. Yeah, it was designed to be tough. Typically, my averages are about 70%, so I'm about 5 percentage points lower than I normally get for something like this. So other than that, that was the only thing of slightly of concern to me, but tricky wording, yes. I am a tricky person sometimes. What I also wanted to go over was, so I posted a more detailed rubric for the paper. You can go through that. You're about 5 weeks out, 5.5, 6 weeks since it's due. I've made it due in the middle of the finals week. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, some people are stronger on exams, some are stronger on papers. It's your preference. Because this is a GE course, I believe, so we have to make it minimum 2,500 words. So 2,500 words, I don't know what that translates to page limits. Usually, depending on what font you use and what spacing you use, of course, it varies. But if you use single space, you're looking at something probably like 6 pages in that range if you use 12-point font. So 5-6 pages. So, if you can do a word count on Microsoft Word and check it out. I'm not going to do a word count on your paper, by the way. And this is sort of on the honor system, okay? So if you turn in a 25-page paper, don't do that, please. If you turn in a if you turn in a 4-page paper, that's also kind of a red flag, right? Okay, so if you're in that magical 7 to 8 page range, I think you should be okay, plus or minus. Plus, too much minus won't be good. Yeah. John is saying he read some of the questions too quickly. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I give you 3 minutes a question. It's sometimes, I often, and I suspect others do the same. You read kind of what you want to read. There's so many times I'll read something online and then I'll go back and I realize I read the word or sentence completely incorrectly. It's just my mind already fills in the blank very quickly. So, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's again, it's I say this to all my students, and and in part because it's true, and in part also because to cover myself. No, my tricky wording. Um, but no matter what field you go into, it could be social work, it could be law, it could be urban planning. Each one has a licensing exam, right? And even engineering, actually, believe it or not, civil engineering. And each licensing exam is now multiple choice, and it's computer based. And whether it's engineering or social work, my wife's a social worker. She took the LCSW exams. And so I was looking at some of her questions when, back in the day when she took hers, and they were like, it was literally 4 choices. And I, not knowing anything about social work, could have narrowed it down to 2, but those 2 were very close. And that's where, the knowledge sort of comes in. And in her case, I think it was a 2-part exam, and the second part, it was like 45 questions, and pretty easy not to get right. Let's put it that way. And so, sorry, yeah, Kristen, you can always interrupt because I'm digressing here. But that's the reason I go with the multiple choice. It's par for the course now. Any field you take, the licensing exam, even planning for your AICP certification, the American Institute of Certified Planners. If you guys go into planning and you get that, it's a pretty long multiple choice exam. That's just what it is. Okay, Tristan is asking, our final paper must be on a U.S. city. That's what I put. Let me ask you, since most of you, or a lot of you are here, do you guys have a preference? I mean, I'm open to opening it up to international cities. Do you want me to do that, or do you prefer U.S. cities? Yes, Charisse, it's still possible to pass the course. Is anybody really, sort of jonesing to do a foreign city? Anchorage is still U.S., Aaron. I'm just kidding. Rome. Catherine, have you ever been to Rome? Yeah. First time I went to an ice bar was in Rome. That was a very bizarre experience. I could have seen all the historical stuff, but no, instead I ended up in an ice bar. Yeah, Tokyo is wonderful too. Tokyo is probably my second favorite city on the planet. Okay, you know what? Go ahead. Amsterdam. I was just telling my friend here who's from Irvine, if I was going to live, one of the top 3 places would be Amsterdam because you could bike everywhere. The bicyclists are positively militant there. Okay, go ahead. Just do whatever big city you want outside the country. That's fine. So ignore whatever I wrote over there. It is. Man, those bicyclists in Amsterdam, they kind of look at you badly, if you're like cross their path. I was less afraid of the trams and the cars and the bicyclists. It is hectic biking there. That's for sure. Okay, so what's your hometown, John? Yeah, London. San Marcos. Not that I want to agree with you, but I would have to agree with you. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So Osvaldo was asking about LA. Now, LA is an interesting. For some of my other planning classes, I always say no to LA because it's so big. It's 3 million people. But go ahead. You can do LA. You can do a part of LA also. LA for those of you who are interested in sort of the planning implications of doing a place like Los Angeles, is divided into what's called service planning areas, SPAs, SPA. And because the region is so big, the SPAs are a good way. I think it's 1 through 8. SPAs are a good way to analyze LA. So you could do the SPA that corresponds to Northeast LA, for example, if that's what you're interested in. Honolulu is fine as well. Yeah, Honolulu is a big city. All right, so in the rubric I do put pick a city with a significant historical record. That's just a fancy way of saying like pick a city that's not like San Marcos. Sorry. No, one that is somewhat interesting. okay, from a historical standpoint. And usually size lends interest. So, you know, Honolulu or Los Angeles are big enough, or at least Honolulu's case is the capital. Amsterdam, of course, is fascinating, as is Tokyo. Tokyo would be a very difficult city to do because there's Tokyo and then there's the greater prefecture, right? That Tokyo is part of, sort of the suburbs of Tokyo. And you got something like, what, maybe, and don't quote me on this, but I think 25–30% of the Japanese population lives in that larger prefecture. So Portland is totally fine. Nagasaki, ooh. Hey, we jinx, double jinx, Aaron. We both made the same face at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, I think Nagasaki definitely is interesting because, you know, for obvious reasons, right? Let's start with the word Enola. That was the name of the bomber. Enola Gay. Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Yeah, either one is fine. I believe one of the last remaining survivors just died recently or something like that. I don't remember. Anyway, I could be wrong. Yeah, any of those places are fine. But the main thing, and again, as you go through the rubric, this will become clear, but let me just go over that for you guys. The part of the paper is descriptive. So, you know, because this is a planning class, we cover demography, we cover land use, we cover housing, we cover, you know, we cover the sustainability angle. So describe the city in terms of some of those planning related concepts, right? What is the city design like? What is the history like? What are the population like? What is the average household size? What's the income like? What's the poverty rate like? Those kinds of things. That's one part of it. The other part is pick a sustainability related issue that is confronting the city. So if you're doing something like Los Angeles, an obvious issue in LA is transportation related, right? But in the paper, I cover their sustainability has 3 E's, right? 3 E's. And what are they? They're the environment, they are the economy, and they are equity. So sustainability is not just about air quality, right, or water quality. Sustainability also is about poverty rate, by the way. Sustainability also is about things like the differences in incarceration rate in the US when you look at different groups of people. That's an equity issue, right? For example, if you were doing let's say you were doing a city, maybe in parts of the Middle East, you might look at the equity piece and say, you know, some of these countries are remarkably well off and they've made, you know, lots of money off oil and whatnot. However, they're of course facing a looming water shortage, right? So the Middle Eastern communities they hit all 3 E's. Once the oil runs out, the economic crisis is coming. Environmental stuff, right, is water, okay, the desertification. And then the equity part is women's rights. Okay, so you can look at any of these angles when you're looking at a place. So basically what you should be thinking about is, you know, what are the interesting things that relate to planning and sustainability in the city? And then devote about 40%, 30–40% of your paper discussing that problem. And then, and here's the key thing. What do you think should be done about it? What's a policy solution? And so the key here is not to end on a policy solution. In other words, let's say you identify, oh, you know, LA has really bad air quality. And then, you know, I would expect maybe a paragraph on what we can do about it. Like discuss a policy solution, not just in one line, but more than one line, maybe a paragraph or 2. And then a concluding remark, and then you can end the paper, okay? DC is also okay, John. Yeah, Anchorage, coastlines are also okay. Erosion, earthquakes, these are all very typically part of when you're assessing natural hazard. Like if you look at, you know, if Anchorage has a general plan, which they should be addressing all of these issues as well. Okay, so that's your paper in a nutshell. I would get started on it now. Honestly, it's something you could probably finish in a weekend if you really tried, but, you know, get it out of the way. It's an easy slam dunk, right? I mean, my grading on papers tends to be, you know, if you've hit sort of the major points and covered the problem in reasonable detail, you're going to get somewhere in the high 80s, low 90s for the paper usually. Okay, so what sources do I recommend? Things that you think are reasonable. So like if you're looking for demographic information and it's US, census is the place to go, or the city webpage, which will refer to the census anyway. But if you're going to Amsterdam, for example, they have their own version of the census, or you will have to, you can use something called the CIA fact book or United Nations. The United Nations has great resources, UN, or the population, something called the Population Reference Bureau. Google that. These are all great sources of information. But for like information or data on the actual problem you're interested in, you will have to do a little bit of digging online. I would recommend going through online journals, but however, this paper is more general. So you don't have to necessarily look up actual scientific articles. If you think that is necessary, you can. But just exercise your own caution. This is basically, some sources are better than others. There's official sources that come from the country or the region itself, and then there are sources that are somebody's opinion. So rely more on official versus not. But if you are looking at World Bank, IMF for economic resources and data, that's perfectly fine. United Nations for information, or World Health Organization on health-related data, right? Or any of the various UN organizations. UN has a lot of organizations: UNDP, United Nations Development Program, UNICEF, which looks at children's health. So there's a lot of UN-based sources as well that you can look at, and then of course local sources that are coming from the country that you're interested in. If you go in the US, census is of course the way to go. Any other questions? Oh, Aaron, next reading quiz soon. Yeah, after I go over the lecture today, I'll cover more about that on Thursday. I'll let you know. But yes, it's coming. Okay, well, then I'm going to end right now. I'll let you guys get back to whatever you're doing. And I'll see you on Thursday. On Thursday, we'll also have a guest. We'll have Professor Kent, who is the chair of the Urban Studies Department. He'll be dropping by as well. Say hi to him. And I'll be on my best behavior. So you can be on your best behavior too, if you want. Or not. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Office meetings today? There are no office meetings today. Do you need to talk to me for some reason, Sammy? I can stay on. Sure. Yeah, we can set up. Let others get off and then we can I'll stay on here. Let me stop recording this.